Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges, as he explores turning the page on his life and yours.
Welcome, friends, to the next chapter with Charlie. It's always so good to have you with us. You know, every now and again, I have a guest whose message resonates very deeply with my own internal drivers. And today I'm excited to chat with Julie Wignall, author of a book teaching us to model our lives after fireflies. And the fireflies that exist to let their light shine. Beautiful. Her book that is titled The Extraordinary Power of Fireflies: How to Shine Your Light Better and Transform the World. And it has received extremely, Julie, just incredible reviews on Amazon. You know, every review is a 5. I don't think I've ever seen one where, other than 2 reviews, every review is a 5. So let's find out why people love your book so much. And so, hi everyone. Everyone, this is Julie Wignall. Welcome to the next chapter with Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie. It's really wonderful being here and being able to connect today. And I think, honestly, one of the reasons why the book has gotten such a warm reception is it's a group effort. It's mine, but I highlight some of the amazing work that people are doing around the world. And I not only highlight it and talk about it, but I've talked to the people that I've written about. So it's like not one of these things that, well, I read this in a newspaper and just taken it. I actually worked with the people to make sure that I was telling the story that they wanted to tell. And, you know, when we shine the light that we all have within us, the world shines brighter. That's the concept of fireflies. And then when we shine together, it gets brighter still. But the concept behind this is fireflies. With a background in biology and environmental science, I was looking at what would I call these people and what would be a good metaphor? And the neat thing about fireflies is they shine. They shine not because somebody turns on their light. They turn on their light. That light's always there. And when they shine, you think, oh, what kind of a difference can I make in the world? I'm just like one person. But if you've ever been in a field where fireflies begin lighting up at night, you see that just one firefly is enough to remind us of the magic and the power that we all carry inside of us. So it's almost not teaching anybody something new. I'm here to kind of remind people to see, it's like the Wizard of Oz, you've had the power all along.
Yeah.
You've had the light all along. We need you to shine it. We need you to shine it brighter.
I love that. You know, it reminds me. I just thought when we were talking, because you talk so correctly about shining light is not shining the light; it's shining your light, and that's why fireflies are different than bees. Now, if we were to use bees, they're going to shine the light of the hive. There is no such thing as an individual life in a bee. A bee only is part of a community and is going to function in its community role. But fireflies are in a community of light shiners, but there's no corporate rule. There's no hive that they have to shine. They're shining their own light. And that's what you're proclaiming in your ideals, aren't you?
Yes. The firefly doesn't have to ask permission. Is it okay if I shine?
Yeah. And let me plug in. Where do I go recharge? I need to recharge my firefly battery.
They shine because they can. And, you know, for most species of fireflies, they actually begin their life, believe it or not, underground. And even underground, as they're building that foundation for everything, they still can shine. You know, it's like while you're preparing, you know, when you have these dreams, this purpose, what you want to do, it doesn't mean that you don't shine until you've accomplished it. You shine all the way through while you're preparing, while you're going down that path. You never stop shining.
Oh, what a beautiful thought! It makes me think of babies, not infants, but babies. And babies naturally, people are so attracted to babies. Aren't they so cute? Aren't they so what? Because they're shining. They don't know what else to do.
Exactly.
They're shining their own true existence, their own unique value.
Well, and that brings up a really good point. One of the things that I've written about, that as you get older, you try to gather wisdom and pass it along. I have a chapter in my book called Go Back and Get It. And it's based on the Sankofa principle in Africa. It's a picture of almost like it looks like a goose that's heading in one direction, but its back is looking back to like an egg, or think of a seed on its back. To remember, we have to bring the things from the past to work towards a future. And one of the big things that I talk about, when you talk about babies, is the importance when you're trying to accomplish something big, you're starting an organization or a business, or you want to reach people, is multi-generations. We have this whole movement now of, it's a senior-led movement, it's a youth-led movement. And it's like, we need movements where I've got somebody who's in their 90s sharing their light, somebody who's in their 70s, somebody in their 50s, 20s. But I need that 10-year-old too, because it's those kids that remind us of, just like babies, of that power and that magic that we all carry with us. They've got the light, they're shining it. They haven't been taught not to.
The beauty of naivete and innocence.
Yeah.
Where they're not fearful, they're not protecting. They don't have to worry about what people are thinking of them, unless they're raised in a really dysfunctional household. But they're just interested in being themselves.
Right.
When you talk about Sankofa, that's so, I've never heard of anybody talk about Sankofa except my friend Terry. And he tells, I'll tell this story that it does relate to light shining. And it's a American sort of imperialist that goes to Africa that wants to form a expedition, wants to form a safari. But like a typical American entrepreneurial business person, this guy wants us to move fast, and he's getting up people and telling the person in charge, get the workers together, we need to move. And so they're just on an extreme rush for about 3 or 4 days. And then on that 4th or 5th day, he says, okay, let's get ready to go. And none of the workers moved. They're just sitting there. They're done. And the guy says, we got to go. And he says, we can't. And this is a way he says, our workers are waiting for their souls to catch up.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But isn't it like we're waiting sometime for our light to catch up, or for us to know we don't have to catch, the light doesn't catch up. We catch up with our light.
Yeah.
This is what I have to shine.
Yeah. That's very true. We live in a culture that teaches us that we're always looking to what we're going to accomplish next. And we have these lovely sayings that, life is a journey, enjoy the ride, enjoy the pathway. But we never stop to think about what that really means. When I work with clients or talk to people, it's like, I'll be happy. I'll hear, when I accomplish this. Well, what's the first thing that we do when we accomplish something? We don't sit there and go, oh, it's over, I made it to the top of the mountain. We go, oh, there's another mountain. And then there's another mountain. So you can't wait to say, oh, I'm going to enjoy it all when I reach that next pinnacle. If you haven't been having fun along the way and enjoying every step of this, then you're not going to have it when there's the accomplishment. I mean, you win an award and you go, that's great. You feel great for an afternoon. You pat yourself on the back, or you get that the raise or the job or the special thing that you want comes through, the first thing that we do within 24 hours is go, oh, there's a new goal now that I want to reach. There's more impact that I want, more influence that I want to be able to have and share with people. But the concept is enjoying it and having those memories as our lives happen, and there are bends and winds in the road and on the path, to embrace every one of them, and the fact that, as you and I were talking about before, that we're here to experience them. We're here to know what they feel like, and they become a part of us, and they make our lives richer one way or another. Even when it's hard, there are things that are gifts that we get out of that.
Waiting, the if only and when motif, those are I so concur that we live personally in this world that says, I'm going to be satisfied when I get her if only. And as you so aptly pointed out, we don't get it. It doesn't come, because then it's just another goal. And you know what that does? Those are like what the Bible says, putting a bushel over your light.
Yeah.
It's, your light is shining. You can't stop your light from shining. You can't stop it, but you can cover it. You can hide your light, not intentionally. And it takes breaking out of that pattern and feeling authentic and fulfilled right now.
Right.
And this is what I need to show people. They need to know what I bring to the table.
Right. And then on the flip side, when you have the people who say, your light's too bright, I tell people, if that happens, you carry around sunglasses and say, you think my light's too bright? Put these on. That's okay, but I can't stop shining bright. That's who I am.
I love that you carry sunglasses that you pass on to people. Deal with it.
Yeah. And because for somebody who's listening and paying attention and who is authentic, when you shine your light that bright, it allows them to say, oh, if they can do that, it's like I give myself permission that I can do that too. And then we have more people. I mean, you become a role model for other people to shine their light as well. And to say, if they can do it, I can do it. And, and I bring up with fireflies, there are over 2,000 different species of fireflies. And I don't know if you know, but they glow in a lot of different colors.
I didn't know that. No.
They're yellow. They are blue. There's a beautiful firefly called the blue ghost firefly, and they light up the bottoms of a forest. They look like landing strips at an airport. They glow in red and in orange, yellow, green, blue. This is a family of beetles that embraces a whole lot of diversity. And in terms of people, one of the reasons why I wrote my book is because there's so many people who say, oh, if you want to succeed and you want to live a fulfilling life, this is the way to do it. This is the only way to do it. It's like that diet book that says, if you want to lose weight, you need to do it my way or it's not going to work. And it's like, wait a minute. We're all trying to climb to the top of the mountain, but there's a lot of different paths that will take us there. And what works for one person might not work for someone else. And to give that example of, different fireflies and how different people have done this, to say it's not just you can't change the world unless you're a lawyer. You can't change the world unless you're in business or unless you're an artist or unless you're we need all of those things, and we need everybody. We need that full family, that big diversity, and we need everybody finding their own way, that's their own path that feels right to them.
That sounds like, it sounds very much like the authenticity motif. Talk to me about authenticity. I know that's an important subject for you.
It's huge. It's being aware of yourself, what gives your life meaning, what makes you happy. A lot of people don't even know what makes them happy. Knowing what your code of values are and being authentic about it. I keep saying we need to create the type of world that we want to live in. And I want to live in a world where people are authentic, where when someone says, it's like when you check out of a store and the person says, "Oh, did you find everything that you were looking for?" And you kind of go, "Well, no." And they go, "Well, thank you very much. Have a good day." And, I want to live in a world where someone goes, "Hey, how are you? I mean, how are you really?" And where it's okay to say, "You know what? I'm having a really tough day. I'm having a great day. I'm dealing with a couple of issues that are, pulling me back," but where we can be honest about all of it. I'm trying to find a new way to do blank, and, I'm just frustrated right now. And to deal with each other one-on-one so that we're really seeing each other as people. I believe that every person that is walking on the face of the planet has the same 3 desires and the same 3 needs. We all want to be seen, we all want to be heard, and we all want to feel that we're special. And it's not a matter of feeling that we're special, because we are special. That's the concept of the light that we all have within us. And, that we have that power to do all the things that we want to do, as long as we embrace that.
I am struck deeply by what you just said. I can't tell you how many times we talk, as guests know that I always talk with listeners know that I talk to my guest beforehand. And there are so many things that like Sankofa, that you said, I get, but you're the only other person to talk about that. And when you said there are 3 human needs, I'm sitting here and saying, oh my God, no, not really, because my 3 human needs are to be heard, to be accepted, and to be cared about. So that's exactly, to be cared about is someone special. Yeah. That you are someone special, that people care. And isn't it, that's weird that we have these same, anybody else that comes up with those same 3 values automatically?
I don't know, but I've spent many years studying a lot of this. And I've got many years of, in addition, I overlap the science with Jungian psychology, with spirituality. The first thing that they teach you in biology is everything is connected. And the older I get and the more I start overlaying, it's like everything really is connected. We're connected to each other, but it's an overlay. It's not just the biology, it's the spirituality is just as important. It's the psychology that's just as important. I think that we all, when we're young, go through different trauma as children, different for everybody, but we still have those 3 needs, and we're always looking to be seen, to be heard, and to feel like we matter, to feel that we're special.
Right.
And we look to our families as children to do that. Hopefully you get it. Hopefully if you don't get it from your family, you get it from people within a larger circle. But you can tell with adults who didn't get it and where they're looking for it through our actions. If I'm going to be really authentic here, I will tell people a lot, if you're having difficulties dealing with someone, ask them about their experiences, their relationship with their family, with their parents, because we tend to recreate that. I spent 13 years working as a corporate executive within a Fortune 500 company. And it was really interesting. I found that those of us in that C-suite area, boy, the things that we did to get that approval from the CEO. And when we'd start talking, I started asking. I did not have a great relationship with my father. And I thought, wow, I wonder if that's impacting anyone else.
Oh, my goodness.
And sitting there, we would often be in airports going on different trips together. And while you're sitting around waiting, it was like I'd always shift the conversation from business to, so tell me about your parents and, are they still alive? And do you have a relationship? And the majority of the executives that I worked with, we all had father issues. We were all...
Oh, and they were willing, but first of all, they're willing to talk about that.
Well, when you're dealing with someone like me that doesn't...
That is rather tenacious.
I'm the first person who is willing to be authentic and say, look, I came from a dysfunctional family and it taught me what dysfunction looks like in other people. And I'm very grateful for that. I learned a lot. And all of a sudden, you take that kind of attitude and someone goes, let me think about that, because I too did not have the greatest relationship. But now all of a sudden you're talking about something a lot more interesting than, are you prepared for the board meeting tomorrow? And is your presentation ready? It's like, you know what? These are things that I haven't thought about. And these are things that we think about as teenagers. These are things that we know inherently as children. We think about as teenagers, and then we get into this rut of, as adults, going, well, I've got to work, I've got to do the errands, I've got to clean the house, I've got to tend to all these responsibilities that I have. I don't have time to think about me or things that I'm going through. And that's that concept of the story that Terry told you, it's like, wait, we got to stop and we have to let our light catch up with us.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And that time, I think, retirement helps, but I've been like this pre-retirement, but I worked for myself, for the last 40 years. I had my own business. And so I didn't have to report in to anybody. And so I could use my time as I wanted. So I've always been able to have time to, and instead of thinking, I use the word ponder.
Yeah,
I like pondering. And this morning I notice every morning I ponder in bed. I have this big pillow I set up behind me. And I go from 6:30 till almost 10 o'clock. And I do inspirational reading, just a bit, not a lot of reading, just a couple of pages. And then I always meditate for 20 minutes. And then I journal for another 20 or 30 minutes. And then I go off and pray. But this morning I found myself just sitting. After I meditated, I just sat, and it was not intentional. But I was just pondering. I just, and life, and, and I spent, Julie, at least 30 to 40 minutes, just sitting up and just thinking, just letting letting myself ponder my life and ponder the world.
But think about how empowering that is. What a great schedule. And it's work. It's work that a lot of people don't do. We don't think of it. People like you and me don't think of it as work because we like to go deeper and we like to go, wait a minute, this is something new. There are a lot of people that are not really comfortable. And I think that part of that goes back to feeling comfortable with yourself. And that's where the spirituality becomes part of this as well.
Huge.
And that's where your code of values becomes so important. I can say, yes, worked in a corporate setting, and of course, always looking for the pat on the back from the CEO. It's that father figure, but having a very strong code of values. There are things I will do. There are things I will not do, because I'm consciously and constantly aware of what's important to me. in terms of ethics and integrity and authenticity and transparency, honesty. And so if I were working for someone, which I would no longer be, I would have left, had somebody asked me to do something illegal. I could not have talked myself into something else, something that was harmful to someone. When you have that code of values, you can go back and you can really evaluate when someone's asking you to do something, to say, this is within my code of ethics or it's not. And that impacts the choices that we make in our lives. And when we're making choices that are in alignment with our code of ethics, we have no problem sitting down and reviewing in every day or visiting ourselves on a deeper level spiritually, because we may say, oh, I need to adopt something new in my life or change something. Mm-hmm. But we're not in that conflict going, oh, I said I wanted to be honest, but I just lied to a whole group of people about something. It stays in alignment, and you go, okay, now that I'm in alignment, I can go even deeper and say, how do I build that even more?
So you know what I'm hearing, and what I so once again agree with you. Light shining begins with me. It begins with myself. That's what it's understanding yourself, working with yourself, accepting yourself, believing in yourself. And if you don't really accept yourself and believe yourself, it's hard to be a light shiner.
And it also means being really aware. When you're sitting there going through your morning practice, you're becoming very aware of yourself. I teach you, we've got to do awareness exercises. When you take yoga, they say that the most important exercise that you can learn is called Tadasana, and you're just standing in one place. They call it the mountain pose, and you're checking in with each part of your body to say, how am I doing? Because our bodies send us signals when things are out of alignment. We don't always listen. And when we do that, we check in with ourselves. I've had experiences with people. I'll go, gosh, you're sounding really snarky right now. Something going on. And they'll go, oh my gosh, I have a headache. I didn't even realize that. And I'm sitting there thinking, how could you not know you have a headache? But you have to be willing to be aware. And then once you're aware of yourself, then it's being aware of the people around you. I actually have an exercise that's part of my flying lessons for fireflies that's downloadable that I call the grocery store exercise. How do you act within a grocery store? Are you aware of yourself? Are you aware of, okay, I'm here and I'm going for a box of crackers, but are you aware of other things that are on the shelves? Are you aware of the other people there? If somebody's got their cart and they're blocking the center of the aisle, do you say, excuse me? Do you just find another way around? Do you push the cart out of the way? How are you dealing with people? Would you be aware if someone is having a hard time trying to reach the soup cans at the top of a shelf? Or if someone's having difficulty with something, would you be aware enough to be able to offer your help? But that starts with the awareness of yourself, always.
And do you know what? I think that requires not only a willingness, we may be willing or desiring, but what we must do is give ourselves permission.
Exactly.
Because we don't want to have, because this sounds too wowie wooey. This is sort of out there. This is really not, although I like it, I don't think it's the right thing to do. And it is. And as a matter of fact, the very first podcast I did, we did only 8 shows with a friend of mine, the Sankofa guy. And we did a podcast. I love the title. It was called Permission to Be You.
I saw that. I liked that.
Yeah, we didn't do very many. It just was too hard to co-host something. But But the concept is right. We need to, and the permission is no one gives us permission. You're not asking people for permission. You're giving yourself permission. You're saying this is self-care, and this is a way I can serve the world.
Right.
I can't serve the world until I'm taking care of myself.
Right. When I talk about shining your light and really transforming the world, sometimes that's on a level with pioneers and change makers and thought leaders, and they're doing things all over the world. It's amazing. Sometimes it's people who are doing things within their community. And sometimes that thought leader, change maker is just the person who's maybe being a caretaker for someone else. And sometimes just waking up in the morning and taking care of yourself is enough. As long as you're aware through that and you're shining your light, those all have an impact on transforming the world, because you can't make the world a better place if you're miserable. The world needs you to be happy. The world needs you to shine. And the world needs you to remember the wonderment and the magic of nature. I mean, we're surrounded by miracles every single day. And we forget to appreciate them, and we take them for granted. And just sitting in bed in the morning as you do, just getting focused on that, sets an alignment for the rest of the day, which is really important. And you know, a lot of times, what's the first thing someone will do if they feel out of alignment? A lot of times they'll say, let me go for a walk, or let me sit outside for 5 or 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's that connection to nature. And if we look and we keep that awareness around us, we remember that we're surrounded by miracles. The fact that we're here on this planet that's spinning around and we don't fall off and it all kind of somehow is pretty amazing. The fact that you plant a seed and it grows into a flower, we just go, oh, my crop worked well, it didn't work, my garden's okay. No, the fact that that tiny seed has created a flower, has created a tree or a bush. If that's not a miracle, it's like, I don't know what people are looking for, but that's pretty huge.
Yeah, I love that. You know, and being a light shiner, I see two aspects of it right now as you're talking. I'm thinking two aspects. One, the second aspect is if you have a cause that you can shine a light for this cause, like you do with trash makers and perfume makers that I want to talk about, that you're taking, and you have a cause that you can shine a light to those people. But you know, it begins more innocuously. It begins every day, every minute. I don't have to be, it's not a purpose, it's not a cause, it's an identity. You know, the firefly doesn't wait till people show up to look at it. It's just shining.
No, and I define a firefly as someone who sees beyond what is, and they actually take action to create a better reality. And that might be as simple as having a conversation with the cashier that's checking you out in the grocery store, or it can be as big as someone, one of the people I wrote about, Amy Christensen.
Right.
Amy was
I want to talk about Amy. Yeah.
Amy was a social worker and noticed in Morocco that the women, and you've worked in African countries, she was working in Morocco and she noticed that the women there were flower gatherers, but they could only work for certain months of the year. And what they were taking, the refuge from these jobs that only lasted a few months, were thrown into landfills. So we have all of these pieces of flowers and extra things that are sitting in landfills. And here was Amy who said, you know what? Somebody needs to do something about it. And instead of saying, somebody else needs to do something, Amy said, what can I do about it? And she found a way to take the refuse from the landfills and to turn it not only into perfume, but doing it while employing these women, while empowering them with business skills so that they would have more of an income coming through. But Amy took this and created a whole new line of fragrances that became a high fragrance line that is based out of Paris and in the top places in Europe. It's called Saint Jardin. It is a beautiful, beautiful line of scents, but she did certain things where even working with the women, she respected the culture. She respected their belief systems and the stories that they had to tell. And so she worked at empowering them. And then she took this into a luxury fragrance line. And where that could have stopped there and she'd have a great story to tell people, Amy works along the lines of what we call circular economy, which is where you think about the products that we use, the work that we do from the beginning of its life, whether you're making clothing or luxury perfumes, to the end of its life and what that looks like. With the perfumes, she took it and said, okay, the next step is luxury perfume line. I have to bottle it and I have to package it. Well, with her commitment to circular economy, her packaging is actually, and this is luxury, her packaging is made out of recycled coffee cups. Her glass is, last count was over 30% recycled glass that the perfume comes in. But she's a firefly, so she's changing constantly and constantly upgrading. And the concept back to that circular economy is not only paying attention to how what you're doing is impacting the environment, but is knowing that none of us are going to be perfect. One of the rules of being a firefly, we strive for growth, not perfection. Yeah. And it's okay to make mistakes, and it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to be aware of it, and we're going to impact things in the best ways that we can. But so here's Amy doing this as a firefly. One way to do this is a luxury perfume line. But again, knowing that there's so many different ways up to the top of the mountain, I have Fabio Chavez, who is a musician who was working at the biggest landfill in Paraguay, South America. And the people who live there are so poor. Most of their homes are actually put together with refuse and things that they find from the landfill, which you go, oh my gosh, well, this is horrible. But then you also see these people are unbelievably innovative in what they've been able to do and create. Right. And Fabio living there said, I'd like to, there are a lot of kids here and I'd like to teach them music. I would love to set up an orchestra. So, of course, the first thing that you think about is, oh, maybe I can get funding from someone and we can buy musical instruments and give them.
That's the normal way of thought.
Fabio thought this bigger and said, if I do that, these instruments are going to be stolen within 24 hours because somebody's going to take them to use to make money from them. So he took a different tactic and he said, what if I go through all of this trash in the landfill and we make instruments from the trash? And that's exactly what he did. He worked with some of the locals who, again, very innovative in creating things from the trash and said, I need violins and I need timpani drums and I need cymbals and they have a giant drum set that actually is created from the sides of the drum are giant films, X-ray films that they found in the trash dump. They have violins that have been made out of discarded old license plates that they string up.
License plates. They're
phenomenal. And he created the Recycled Orchestra of Paraguay. These are kids who are beyond the lowest level of poverty. And Fabio teaches them having nothing is no excuse for doing nothing. And their motto is the world sends us trash and we send back music. And working together, they have actually begun touring. They're now beginning to tour the globe. to introduce people to what they do and how they do it. And they're very talented. I mean, they're really actually very good. It's not like, oh, I'm going to sit through this. This is
through a middle school orchestra concert.
They're fabulous. They're really, really terrific. These are people that were so poor when they first got the chance to travel. There were no documents. Fabio couldn't get them passports because there were no birth records.
Sure.
So he had to work with, it's like every level you hit, you go to here. Okay, here's the next challenge that we're going to stand up to meet. They got travel documents for the kids, and they've been taking these kids around the world, which has been amazing.
That is a tremendous story, and that they had a light. They had, but they didn't know it, and it was really hidden by extreme poverty and lack of opportunity. Where do you find that light? Well, they found it in music and but in a special music.
Yes.
In a special, because it's music and it's just incredible creativity that
Yes. And isn't music the language that kind of connects us all?
It does.
And they've been really incredible. And it's back to that saying, which of course eludes me right now, but when you take a step, the bridge appears under the stepping stone. You have to take the first step, and the path begins to appear before you. The help that you're looking for, that you say, I can't do this alone. Stop thinking like that. This needs to be done. And somehow people come out of the woodwork that you least expect and say, I'm here to help.
And they have so many skills, like you said, the creativity, the ingenuity of the poor, especially in foreign countries.
Yes.
That it seems like they have no hope, and yet they find something. They discover a way. I saw a TV series from a very famous book that, unfortunately, I can't remember the name of the book. I was just thinking of that, but it was like an 8-episode show with Charlie Hunnam, one of my favorite actors. He's from Sons of Anarchy.
Okay.
He was kind of the young leader of the Sons of Anarchy, good looking, and he plays a man who was falsely accused of murder, and he was in jail in Australia. He escapes jail. He gets a new passport, and he goes to India, and he doesn't want anybody to know. No one can know who he is, because the Australian authorities will come after him. Wow. And so what he does is he lives in the poverty of the slums, and there's a community in the slums, and there's a leader of the community. And what this guy was, he was a paramedic, and he was a very successful paramedic, but that's as far as his medical training went. Well, there was a fire in the slums, and he turns out taking his paramedic experience and becomes almost like a doctor to people, and serving people, helping them in need. and people are coming to him for more and more things, and he really becomes a doctor of this community, and he's very uncomfortable with that. He says, I don't have the skills. I'm not a doctor. I don't, I can't be your doctor. And the leader of the community calls, and I believe the phrase is called Jugaad, Jugaad, I believe is. And what it is it's taking the incipient who you are, what you do right now, and saying, you're all this community has, and that you need to grow that and expand that, and let yourself be the doctor. And that is what, it reminds me of the people in poverty, that look look what they have. They have such ingenuity, such creativity, such a desire to exist, to survive, to make a difference. And look what they have. As a result of that, they have an international orchestra of trash making music.
Right, because it goes back to just what we started with. Everybody wants those three things. These kids, like anybody else, they want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to know that they matter, they want to know that they count, that they're special.
Yeah. And then the step from that is when you achieve that, the step from that is to share it.
Right.
Is to share it to others. And that's where after they gather, that's what we talked about. It begins with you,
right.
But it doesn't end with you. It ends, it transmits to the world.
Yeah.
It transmits, no. It transmits to your world.
Right.
That's what we impact, is our world. You talked a lot to me about fireflies are unconventional. Tell me what that means.
To me, being unconventional means following your own direction, your own path. You're not doing this to hurt anyone or to rebel or to be an activist to say, no, this is a no. It just says, this is the life that I want to live. And it's not always a life that fits in with everybody else's idea of what you should be doing. For me, this was, as a kid, I left school because I was miserable. But leaving, I found my way to a university that accepted me for high school credits. This was not because I was at the top of the class. It was because I wanted to learn, and I didn't feel like I was learning. There were a lot of people who said, oh, you'll never make it for anything, because I wasn't following that conventional pathway. It's the same pathway that says you have to get married and you have to have kids and you have to have this kind of job. And what are you thinking starting a business on your own? That's too scary. What are you thinking being an artist? But when you feel the pull, you do it. And it's unconventional. Now, unconventional takes an additional definition out of this, because you begin to follow your heart and your mind, and you start knocking on the doors to make things work. And a lot of times, those doors don't open. And in terms of being unconventional, unfortunately, too many people say, oh, that's my sign from the universe. I'm not meant to be an artist or a musician or to create this orchestra of recycled instruments with kids. I'm not meant to create a perfume line. What someone who's unconventional does is they don't take that, the no's or the doors that close, as the sign to shut down. They take it as a message to say, I got to find some new doors to open and maybe do this in different ways.
So our way.
Right.
But I'm thinking people don't, this is back to giving permission. Don't give ourselves permission.
Right.
I used to forever, I was in college. I was in college on an athletic scholarship, and I lasted into my third year. And then I was in college. I began college in '67. So I was at UCLA. So I became quickly a dedicated hippie, grew long hair, did the life. And I just was no longer fit in that athletic community. And I wasn't satisfied with that. So I dropped out of college and then took 3 months and hitchhiked around the country and, did the full hippie thing. I found a job that I could be successful at, that I started out as one level above a janitor. It was just one level above a janitor in this corporation. And within a decade, I was director of a division. And I'm doing all this without a degree, and so I went to seminary. I got a couple of master's degrees, and then I got this makeshift baccalaureate that I could actually have a master's degree. And then I've coached executives of billion-dollar companies. I mean, I had 5 of them. And if they knew I had no real college degree, but I didn't, but there are 3 letters. Did I tell you about my 3 letters instead of EDD?
I love those.
Can I tell those letters? Okay, and I'll use stuff instead of shit. But my 3 letters, and it really took me a while to accept this, and realize. I mean, I knew I was doing this. This wasn't, but then because I would view myself as an imposter at times because, and I was not an imposter. I was real. I didn't do any marketing. All of my business, and I was very busy. All of my business was word of mouth. All of my business was referral. You do a good job, that's my marketing. Do a good job, people hire you. So my 3 letters instead of PhD or EDD are GSD, FSO, and MSU. GSD, which is kind of obvious, I get stuff done. That's just it. I will, you give me an assignment, that baby's taken care of. I'm going to handle that. But then where it gets fun is FSO. I have to use the right word. I figure shit out. That is just it. You just give me an issue and I can figure out what the problem is, what's going on, what we need to do. And my favorite is MSU. I make shit up. I just design whatever works for me, whatever's going to work for me and for this organization. I would design very complicated OD systems that, somebody with an OD degree would typically do. And they were very successful. They were hugely successful. But I just live this world of creativity. I don't live this world of having to go back to what did a UCLA prof? I don't care what the UCLA prof had to say to me. What do I do to make a difference? What do I do, in Julie Wignall terms, what do I do to shine my light?
Right. And I think you'd be surprised to know how many of those executives in those positions are also feeling imposter syndrome and never went the university route.
Right.
We make a big deal out of degrees.
Ugh.
We don't make a big deal out of education. Education is always important. Degrees, not so much. I have to tell you, typical, unconventional. During the pandemic, everything is shutting down. One of the Fireflies I wrote about, Chris Nelson, is a budding filmmaker. And he had just signed on. He had a group of people that were ready to do the first film that he was going to get to direct. And all of a sudden, the pandemic comes in. And this comes from that background where you've got the family and the friends going, oh, you need to find a job. This is not a career. Or Chris sat down and was trying to figure out what to do, was talking to someone, a friend of his, through Zoom, just like you and I are, or online. And they came up with a concept of doing a script that was just going to be completely online. They came up with a script. They filmed a movie, short, on a computer. Now, Chris, this isn't about that degree. It's about the education. Chris knew the filmmaking business. He knew that all of the theaters were closed. Now, this is unconventional. So Chris said, I can rent one of these movie theaters and I can show my film in there. I can say that it's now been in a movie theater because they're not doing anything. And he actually found a movie theater that donated the theater to him. And then they did something that's called four-walling, which a lot of filmmakers don't know. He knew it because he was educated in the different sides of the business.
Sure.
Where four-walling is that you basically rent the movie theater and all the ticket sales that come in, you get to keep the ticket sales. So he bought ticket sales. He got all those back. The movie theater managed to donate this. Well, there is a little computer thing that comes out every week where you'll see the top box office film for this week was this film, this like the top grossing. Well, there were no films out there. So Chris's film got picked up as the number one box office film for this little thing that they did. He got media interviews around the world. Had he followed that conventional, this is what a filmmaker does, and I have to wait for someone to hire me to be a director or producer or to create my film, he'd probably still be sitting there not doing anything today, but the doors closed, he found other doors to open, did it unconventionally, and is doing great today.
I love that story. Yeah, thank you. You know, Julie, as we're ending, getting near time here, you know what I would like to kind of wrap up and talk a little bit about? I would like to get more specific on light shining for the everyday person. Light shining, I don't run an organization. I'm not forming an organization. I'm not creating things. It's just, how can I shine a light to everybody else for the reason of, let me propose a reason, for the reason of helping them feel better about themselves. How can I shine a kind of light that helps other people feel better about themselves?
Well, I've thought about that, which is one of the reasons I wrote a free download that's on my website, extraordinaryfireflies.com, that's flying lessons for fireflies, to answer exactly that. If someone says, okay, I'm not sure about reading the book or this or that, what can I do to start shining brighter today, which is why I call it Flying Lessons. And it starts with 5 basic things that become really important. Knowing what gives your life meaning, knowing your code, that's one, knowing your code of values, knowing what makes you happy, taking the time to think about what is it that makes me happy, because it's not that becoming a billionaire or traveling the world, it's the moments, it's the connections that we make with people around us, knowing what makes you happy, knowing where your fears are so that you can embrace them. Everybody deals with imposter syndrome, or I'm not enough, or I'm not deserving.
Right.
I didn't get a degree, or I got a degree, but oh my gosh, it's in the wrong field. Embracing those fears, getting to know them so that we don't let them stop, and then increasing your awareness of yourself and the world around you so that you can shine your light as bright as you're meant to. We have a light, all of us. We have it because we were meant to shine. We weren't meant to be wallflowers sitting in the back of the room. We are each different. We have to celebrate our diversity and the differences among us, and each follow our own path. And, as a student of Carl Jung for so many years, people go, but I'm not sure what it is. And Carl Jung once said, if the path before you is very clear, you're probably on someone else's path.
I love Jung. He's
so it's
my
being
favorite.
Right, and it's being authentic and willing to really take that risk to shine brighter. And a lot of people get upset and they go, but there's so much darkness in the world, only because we need more fireflies shining brighter.
Oh, beautiful. We need more fireflies.
It's the light that drowns out the darkness.
And I wonder if it helps to ponder, what is my light? My light is me. What is it about me that I want to spread? What is it about me? And I'll get personal here. I have 3 things. There's a process. I like to be influential and inspirational. So those move me. I want to influence people. I want to inspire people. So I'm all the time you're so passionate, you're this, you have energy. Well, it just comes naturally because I'm doing what I love. But there's an action that is critical that I want to spread, and that is kindness. I just, when I'm spreading the light of kindness, what I become? It becomes an aura.
Yeah.
It becomes, it's not just kind acts, it becomes kind person, a discipline, and people catch that. And, you know, and then they share their kindness with other people who then in turn share their kindness with other people. And so that's my legacy, is kindness. And I just don't give a rip if people say, I got this from Charlie. That's not important. What's important is the kindness.
Right.
And that is our light. We you know, a firefly creates an aura. Let's be an aura of wonderful light that is our light.
Exactly right. And you are, Charlie, a firefly in every sense of the word. And what you're talking about is being aware of, we all have superpowers, and knowing what those superpowers are. And it's not how fast you can do math calculations. It's embracing kindness. It's feeling passionate about being kind to people. It's, you know, for somebody else, it's like, I'm happy as long as I get to be creative. Whatever that is, embrace it, embrace the energy of that. And like you said, that becomes that light that's an aura, and it works like a beacon of a lighthouse, and it shines out and sends that message to everybody else. And they go, oh, Charlie's being kind. That feels good. I want to be kind too. And they walk away with that. You know, so-and-so's being really creative. That inspires me. Oh, I want to be creative now too. And that's where we begin shining our light.
That's beautiful. I'm going to encourage people to grab your book. You know, the reviews prove that it's a wonderful book, an incredible book. And what I have in the show notes, I have your website, and I have a link to Amazon link to your book. So people will go there. So please find out more about Julie. And Julie Wignall, thank you for spending time with me. This is such an honor.
Thanks for having me. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. I also want to thank everybody for tuning in to the next chapter with Charlie. And until next, this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.